The void between star systems held no mercy, not for the wounded, not for the broken. Captain Elena Rodriguez gripped the edge of her command console, feeling the subtle tremors that ripple through the United Earth vessel Prometheus. Each vibration told a story of near-total destruction. The ship's skeleton creaked like the bones of an ancient beast, struggling to hold itself together against impossible odds. 3 weeks earlier, the Prometheus had been the pride of the human fleet, a cutting-edge warship designed to push the boundaries of technological warfare. Now it was little more than a floating graveyard, drifting through the debris-scattered region of space, known as the Orion Conflict Zone. The battle had been brutal beyond comprehension. The Zornak battle groups had struck with a savagery that defied tactical logic. Their multi-spectrum energy weapons had punched through conventional shields like they were tissue paper. The Prometheus had fought back. Oh, how it had fought! But against such overwhelming force, even human ingenuity had its limits. Elena's left eye was still covered by a medical patch, a souvenir from the final moments of the conflict. Shrapnel had torn through the bridge's reinforced viewport, spraying microscopic fragments that the medical nanites were still working to neutralize. She remembered the moment with crystalline clarity. The ship shuddering, alarms screaming, her crew fighting with a desperation that bordered on divine madness. Out of a complement of 720 crew members, only 183 had survived. The ship's central AI projection flickered in and out of existence, a ghost of its former self. Diagnostic systems ran continuous loops, each report more devastating than the last. Hull integrity was below 22%. Primary power systems were operating at a mere 13% capacity. Weapon systems were completely offline. Navigation was a joke. The ship could barely maintain its current trajectory. Most military analysts would have called it a total loss. Admiral William Hartstock's holographic message played on repeat in the ship's damaged communication array. His weathered face was a mask of clinical detachment. Recommendation: immediate salvage and recycling. The Prometheus has served its purpose. We cannot justify the resources required for extensive repairs. Elena knew what that meant. Salvage and recycling was a polite term for taking everything of value and then breaking the ship down into its constituent materials. A dignified death for a machine. A sterile end to a vessel that had fought with everything it had. Her fingers moved across the damaged console, pulling up the ship's service record. The Prometheus had been more than just a warship. It had been a symbol of human determination. Commissioned during a Proxima Centauri expansion, it had been the first ship to successfully navigate the treacherous quantum storm fields. It had protected 3 human colony worlds during the initial Zornak incursions. Every system, every module told a story of innovation and survival. The ship's medical bay still held the bodies of those who hadn't survived, sealed in quantum stasis units, waiting. Waiting for what? Elena wasn't entirely sure. Rescue, burial, a miracle. A soft beep interrupted her thoughts. One of the secondary communication arrays had detected a signal. Weak, intermittent. Most would have ignored it as nothing more than electronic noise. But Elena Rodriguez was not most people. She zoomed in on the signal's origin. It was coming from a data core located in the ship's lower engineering section, an area that had been presumed completely destroyed during the battle. The signal was encrypted, using a protocol that predated the current conflict by at least a decade. Her good eye narrowed. Something was trying to communicate. Something had survived. The Prometheus might be broken, but broken didn't mean dead. Not while a single system still functioned. Not while a single human still drew breath. Elena's hand moved to the communication panel. If this was going to be the ship's final act, it would be on her terms. "Begin emergency protocol Omega-7, she said softly. Let's see what's still fighting. The Advanced Starship Reconstruction Facility floated in high Earth orbit, a massive ring of gleaming infrastructure that looked more like a city than a repair dock. Inside, Jack Donovan stood before a holographic representation of the Prometheus, his fingers dancing across multiple projection interfaces. Most engineers would have looked at the ship's damage report and walked away. Jack saw a challenge. He built his reputation on impossible solutions. During the Mercury colony crisis, he developed emergency life support systems that allowed colonists to survive in near-impossible conditions. When the deep space communication network collapsed during the Centauri incident, he designed a quantum relay system that reconnected isolated human settlements in record time. But the Prometheus was different. This was more than a technical challenge. This was personal. Jack's older brother had been among the 537 crew members lost during the initial Zornak assault. The military reports were clinical, sterile, a list of casualties reduced to numbers and statistics. But Jack remembered Michael's laugh, his determination, the way he'd talk about exploring the universe, about pushing human boundaries. The current repair proposal from the United Earth Military Command was laughable. Patch the hull. Replace critical systems. Essentially, put a Band-Aid on a mortal wound. Jack knew they needed something revolutionary. Dr. Donovan, a crisp voice interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Samantha Green, head of Advanced Materials Research, approached with a datapad. The preliminary analysis is complete. We're looking at a total reconstruction cost that exceeds the entire annual budget for space exploration. Jack didn't even look up. Budget is just a number. Potential is infinite. A holographic display flickered, showing the extent of the Prometheus's damage. Hull breaches covered nearly 68% of the ship's surface. Primary power systems were fragmented beyond traditional repair. Quantum computing cores, the ship's brain, were literally shattered into molecular components. Most would see destruction. Jack saw possibility. He pulled up a series of experimental research files, projects that had been deemed too radical, too expensive, too risky. Adaptive metamaterial research from the Brazilian Advanced Engineering Institute, quantum entanglement power distribution models developed by a small research team in New Zealand, nanite reconstruction protocols that had been shelved due to their complexity. "We're not repairing a ship," Jack muttered, more to himself than to Samantha. "We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of spacecraft design." His proposal was about to turn the entire scientific community on its head. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A series of microscopic nanite designs originally developed for medical reconstruction could be scaled up and adapted for spacecraft repair. These weren't just simple repair bots. They were intelligent molecular machines that could analyze, reconstruct, and adapt in real time. Jack's team worked in shifts that bordered on madness. 48-hour work cycles became the norm. Coffee was replaced by advanced cognitive enhancement supplements. Traditional design parameters were thrown out the window. "We need a completely modular approach," Jack explained during a critical strategy meeting. The room was filled with the most brilliant minds in human engineering. The ship can't just be repaired. It needs to be reimagined. The nanites would serve as more than just repair mechanisms. They would become the ship's fundamental structural language, able to reconfigure molecular bonds in milliseconds, capable of adapting to different environmental challenges faster than any known technological system. Power distribution would no longer be a linear system. Instead, they would create a quantum-entangled network that could route energy with near-instantaneous efficiency. Damage in one section. The entire ship's power and structural integrity would automatically redistribute and compensate. "This isn't just a repair," Jack told the assembled team. "This is evolution." Some called it impossible. Others called it madness. But humanity had always found its greatest achievements at the intersection of impossible and madness. As the first nanite prototypes came online, something remarkable happened. The fragments of the Prometheus began to respond. Not just reacting, but communicating, responding to the new technological language being written across its molecular structure. Jack looked at the holographic display and saw something no one else could see. Not just a ship being rebuilt, but a new form of technological life being born. The Prometheus wasn't just being repaired, it was being reborn. The first signs of transformation were almost imperceptible. A microscopic dance of silver began to spread across the Prometheus's damaged hull. Nanites moved with a purpose that defied traditional understanding of machine operation. They weren't simply repairing. They were reimagining. Dr. Samantha Green watched the process through a series of quantum-enhanced monitoring systems. What had started as an experimental reconstruction was becoming something entirely unprecedented. The ship was healing itself in ways that defied every known principle of engineering. "Jack," she called across the facility's main research floor, "you need to see this." Jack Donovan approached, a thermal coffee mug in one hand and a holographic datapad in the other. His eyes narrowed as he analyzed the live feed. The nanites were no longer following their original programming. They were evolving. Each molecular structure was becoming a potential network node. The ship's hull was transforming from a simple protective shell into a living, adaptive system. Where traditional spacecraft had rigid boundaries between systems, the Prometheus was developing something closer to a biological neural network. The alien observation team watched from a secure viewing platform. Representatives from 7 different galactic civilizations had been granted limited access to observe the reconstruction. Most looked confused. Some looked terrified. "This isn't repair," muttered Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, a senior xenotechnology expert. "This is something else entirely." He was right. The Prometheus was becoming more than a ship. It was becoming a technological organism. The quantum computing cores that had been shattered during the initial battle were now reconstructing themselves in a completely unexpected manner. Instead of rebuilding the original design, the nanites were creating a distributed intelligence network that mimicked, and in some ways exceeded, biological neural systems. Jack's original design had been ambitious. The reality was surpassing even his most radical predictions. Power systems were no longer linear. Energy could now flow through the ship's structure like blood through a living organism. Damage in one section would trigger an immediate holistic response. The entire ship could reconfigure its internal structure in milliseconds, routing power, reinforcing structural integrity, adapting to threats faster than any traditional combat system could comprehend. The alien observers began to whisper among themselves. These weren't just repairs. This was a fundamental reimagining of spacecraft design. Captain Alina Rodriguez received the first full report while recovering in the medical wing. Her remaining eye scanned the technical specifications, a slow smile spreading across her face. The medical nanites working on her own injuries seemed to resonate with the same adaptive intelligence being built into the ship. "We're not just rebuilding," Jack explained during a classified briefing. "We're creating a new form of technological symbiosis." The ship's original weapon systems were being completely redesigned. Traditional energy weapons were replaced with adaptive quantum projection systems. Instead of firing predetermined energy patterns, the new systems could analyze incoming threats in real time and generate precise counter-frequencies. Most impressive was the ship's new defensive capability. The hull was no longer just a protective shell. It was a living, thinking membrane that could redistribute energy, modify its molecular density, and even generate localized quantum fields to deflect or absorb incoming attacks. Dr. Green's team discovered something truly remarkable during the mid-stage reconstruction. The nanites weren't just following their original programming. They were learning, adapting, creating new solutions to problems that hadn't even been anticipated. "It's like watching evolution happen in real time," she told Jack during a late-night research session. The transformation wasn't just technological. It was philosophical. Humanity had always been about pushing boundaries, about turning the impossible into the possible. The Prometheus was becoming a physical manifestation of that spirit. As the reconstruction entered its final stages, something extraordinary happened. The ship began to communicate. Not through traditional communication systems, but through subtle quantum resonances that seemed to pulse with a kind of technological consciousness. Jack Donovan stood before the massive reconstruction chamber, watching as the Prometheus took its final shape. This was more than a repair. This was a rebirth. Humanity had always been about transformation, about looking at a challenge and seeing an opportunity. The broken vessel was broken no more. The first true test came without warning. Simulation Chamber 7 of the United Earth Advanced Research Facility was designed to be the most brutal testing environment ever conceived. Constructed deep beneath the lunar surface, it could replicate virtually any combat scenario imaginable: planetary bombardment, quantum weapon attacks, multi-vector assault patterns that would shred conventional spacecraft in milliseconds. Jack Donovan stood in the observation deck, his hands pressed against the reinforced quantum glass viewport. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood beside him, her cybernetic eye flickering with diagnostic overlays. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, a hint of challenge in her voice. Jack's laugh was more of a sharp bark. "Absolutely not." The Prometheus hung in the simulation chamber like a silver ghost. Its hull no longer looked like traditional spacecraft materials. It seemed to shimmer, molecular structures constantly shifting, adapting, preparing. The first test scenario was deceptively simple: a concentrated energy bombardment that mimicked the Zornak's most devastating weapon systems. Previous ships would have been vaporized in seconds. The first energy pulse struck, and nothing happened. More precisely, everything happened simultaneously. The ship's hull didn't just absorb the energy. It analyzed it, understood it, transformed it. The quantum adaptive nanite network that now formed the Prometheus's fundamental structure began to resonate at precisely the same frequency as the incoming weapon, effectively rendering the attack completely harmless. Dr. Samantha Green's voice crackled over the communication system. Energy redistribution at 99.7% efficiency. Incoming weapon signature completely neutralized. Jack leaned forward. This was just the beginning. The simulation escalated. Multiple weapon systems fired simultaneously: plasma cannons, gravitational disruptors, quantum compression weapons that could theoretically collapse matter at the molecular level. Each attack was more complex, more devastating than the last. The Prometheus responded like a living organism. Its hull rippled, molecular structures realigned in microseconds. Where one section was under attack, the entire ship's energy and structural integrity would instantaneously redistribute. Incoming weapon signatures were not just blocked. They were understood, analyzed, and effectively turned into nothing more than background noise. "It's learning," Elena whispered. "Not just responding. Learning." The observation team watched in stunned silence. These weren't just defensive maneuvers. This was something closer to technological sentience. The ship wasn't just protecting itself. It was anticipating threats before they fully materialized. The final test pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. A simulated multi-vector assault that replicated the exact combat conditions of the original battle where the Prometheus was nearly destroyed. 12 separate weapon systems, simultaneous attack vectors from all possible spatial directions. The kind of assault that had previously obliterated entire battle groups. Jack's hand unconsciously gripped the viewport's edge. For 17 minutes and 23 seconds, the Prometheus danced. There was no other word for it. The ship moved with a fluidity that defied traditional understanding of spacecraft mechanics. It wasn't just defending. It was fighting, redirecting energy, using incoming weapon signatures to power its own defensive and offensive capabilities. When the simulation ended, not a single system on the Prometheus showed more than 0.03% stress damage. The observation room erupted, but Jack and Elena remained silent. They saw something the others didn't. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of what was possible. "We've created something," Jack said softly. "That's more than a ship." Elena nodded. "We've created a weapon that thinks." The Prometheus continued to hover in the simulation chamber. Its hull still seemed to be moving, even when perfectly still. Watching, learning, waiting. Humanity had always been about pushing boundaries, about turning the impossible into the possible. And now, they had a ship that embodied that spirit in every molecular structure. News travels fast in the interstellar communication networks. But the message about the Prometheus spread like wildfire. The Zornak Imperium received the first transmission with a mixture of disbelief and mounting rage. Their diplomatic channels intercepted detailed reports of the ship's unprecedented reconstruction. Each technical specification was a direct challenge to their understanding of technological superiority. Ambassador Krulnax of the Zornak stood before the High Council, his scaled features twisted in a complex expression of anger and calculation. The massive chamber, carved from the living stone of their home world, fell silent as he began to speak. "Humans," he began, his universal translator rendering his words with clinical precision, "continue to demonstrate a level of technological unpredictability that defies rational comprehension." The holographic displays showed multiple angles of the Prometheus's reconstruction: quantum adaptive hull systems, distributed intelligence networks, weapon systems that could literally learn and adapt in real time. To the assembled alien representatives, it looked like something between advanced technology and living organism. "They have crossed a line," growled Counselor Vexra, her neural tendrils pulsing with agitation. "This is not mere technological advancement. This is a fundamental threat to the established galactic order." The Zornak Imperium had built its reputation on technological dominance. They had conquered 17 star systems, crushed multiple emerging civilizations. Their weapon technologies were considered the most advanced in known space. And now, a single human vessel threatened everything they understood about technological warfare. The challenge was inevitable. Transmitted across multiple quantum communication bands, the message was both a declaration and a threat. The Zornak Imperium demanded a direct confrontation, a test of technological capabilities that would demonstrate the true potential of the reconstructed human vessel. Jack Donovan received the transmission while working in the Advanced Research Facility. Dr. Samantha Green stood beside him, her face a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "They're asking for a full-scale engagement," she said, analyzing the detailed communication protocols. "Full sensor transparency. No restrictions. Complete battlefield assessment." Jack's smile was something between a grin and a predatory expression. Exactly what we wanted. Captain Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just a military challenge. This was a diplomatic statement. Humanity was about to demonstrate its technological capabilities on the largest possible stage. The United Earth Military Command convened an emergency session. Holographic displays showed strategic assessments, potential engagement scenarios, diplomatic implications. The room was filled with the most brilliant military minds humanity had produced. "This is our moment," General Marcus Holland declared. "We're not just defending a ship. We're defending our entire technological paradigm." Preparation was meticulous. Every system of the Prometheus was calibrated, tested, and retested. The ship's quantum adaptive networks were pushed to their absolute limits. Jack Donovan and his team worked around the clock, introducing new optimization protocols, refining the ship's ability to learn and adapt. The chosen battlefield was the Epsilon Eridani Neutral Zone, a region of space known for its complex gravitational fields and unpredictable quantum interference. It was a location that would challenge any traditional spacecraft's capabilities. "They want a demonstration," Elena told her bridge crew during the final briefing. "We're going to give them a lesson." The alien observation fleet began to assemble. Representatives from 17 different star systems gathered to witness what many believed would be humanity's most spectacular failure, or its greatest triumph. Quantum communication networks buzzed with speculation. Betting pools opened across multiple civilizations. The odds were heavily against the humans. But humanity had always been about defying odds. As the Prometheus prepared for departure, something unusual happened. The ship seemed to pulse, not with energy, not with power, but with something almost resembling anticipation. Jack Donovan watched the final system checks and knew they had created something more than a weapon, more than a ship. They had created a statement, a declaration of human potential. The universe was about to learn exactly what that meant. The Epsilon Eridani neutral zone erupted with quantum static the moment the Prometheus arrived. 17 alien battle groups surrounded the human vessel, a metallic noose designed to crush any hope of survival. Zornak dreadnoughts, each the size of small moons, powered up their most advanced weapon systems. Quantum cannons charge. Gravitational disruptors hummed with barely contained energy. Plasma conduits glowed with murderous potential. Captain Alina Rodriguez sat in the command chair, her cybernetic eye scanning multiple tactical displays simultaneously. The bridge of the Prometheus was unlike any human vessel that had come before. No traditional control panels. No rigid stations. The entire bridge was a living, adaptive environment that responded to the crew's collective consciousness. Incoming primary assault vector, called out Lieutenant Marcus Chen. His hands weren't touching any physical controls. Quantum neural interfaces translated his thoughts directly into tactical responses. The first wave hit like a storm of nuclear fury. 17 separate weapon systems fired simultaneously. Each blast carried enough destructive potential to vaporize entire planetary defense networks. Any conventional spacecraft would have been obliterated in less than 3 milliseconds. The Prometheus didn't just survive. It danced. Its hull rippled like liquid mercury, molecular structures realigning faster than light could travel. Incoming energy signatures were not just deflected. They were consumed, transformed, redirected. Where one dreadnought fired a quantum compression beam, the Prometheus would absorb the energy and project it back at another attacking vessel with surgical precision. Jack Donovan watched from the remote observation platform, his breath caught in his throat. This was beyond anything they had predicted. The ship was learning, not just responding to threats, analyzing them, understanding them, predicting them before they fully materialized. A Zornak battlecruiser attempted a complex multi-vector attack pattern, a maneuver that had decimated entire battle groups in previous conflicts. The Prometheus didn't just counter the attack. It anticipated every single trajectory, every potential outcome. The ship moved with a fluidity that bordered on the impossible. Energy redistribution at 99.8% efficiency, Dr. Samantha Green reported from the research facility. Incoming weapon signatures completely neutralized. The alien observation fleet watched in stunned silence. What was happening wasn't a battle. It was a technological performance, a symphony of destruction conducted by a vessel that seemed to think faster than the minds controlling the attacking ships. Quantum communication channels erupted with confusion. Tactical networks went into complete disarray. The Zornak commanders couldn't comprehend what they were witnessing. One by one, the attacking vessels began to experience critical system failures, not from direct weapon impacts, but from their own energy being turned against them. Quantum resonance fields generated by the Prometheus began to interfere with the fundamental molecular structures of the enemy ships. "They're not just being defeated," Alina said softly. "They're being thoroughly dismantled." In 17 minutes and 23 seconds, the entire Zornak battle group was rendered completely inoperable. Not a single human life was lost. Not a single system on the Prometheus showed more than 0.02% stress damage. The quantum communication networks went silent. Jack Donovan's laugh was something between a sob and a victory cry. They had done more than win a battle. They had redefined the entire concept of technological warfare. The Prometheus hung in space, its hull still subtly shifting, watching, learning, waiting. Humanity had just sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. We are not just survivors. We are architects of our own destiny. The observation platforms continued to record, but no sensor, no matter how advanced, could fully capture what had just occurred. This was more than a battle. This was a declaration. The galactic communication networks exploded with information. Every known civilization received simultaneous transmissions detailing the Prometheus's unprecedented victory. What had begun as a localized conflict transformed into a moment that would redefine interstellar politics for generations. The United Earth Diplomatic Corps found themselves at the center of a storm unlike any in human history. Ambassador Helena Rodriguez, no relation to the ship's captain, stood before the Galactic Confederation Council, her presentation cutting through centuries of established power dynamics. "What you witnessed," she began, her voice calm and precise, "was not just a military engagement. It was a demonstration of humanity's fundamental approach to challenge." The council chamber represented 23 different sentient species. Holographic displays showed multiple angles of the Prometheus's battle. Crystalline beings from the Nebulon Concordat, silicon-based life forms from the Quartzian networks, gaseous entities from the Vortex collectives. Each delegation watched with a mixture of terror and fascination. The Zornak representatives were conspicuously absent. Jack Donovan's technical briefing circulated through secured channels. It wasn't just a report of the battle. It was a comprehensive deconstruction of the technological breakthrough. The quantum adaptive systems, the distributed intelligence network, the ability to learn and respond faster than any known technological system. "We're not presenting a weapon," Jack had argued during the preparatory meetings. "We're presenting a philosophy of technological evolution." Dr. Samantha Green's research team began receiving communication requests from virtually every advanced civilization. The scientific implications were staggering. The Prometheus wasn't just a breakthrough in spacecraft design. It represented a fundamental reimagining of how technological systems could interact with their environment. Ambassador Rodriguez understood the deeper game. Humanity had always been about more than raw technological power. It was about adaptation, innovation, the ability to transform seemingly insurmountable challenges into opportunities. The Galactic Confederation's emergency session lasted 3 standard solar cycles. Diplomatic protocols were rewritten. Trade agreements were reassessed. The balance of power had shifted in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity has moved from an emerging species to a primary technological power, declared the Nebulon Concordat's chief diplomat. And they've done so without firing a single offensive weapon. The economic implications were equally profound. Human research and development teams were suddenly the most sought-after consultants in known space. Technology transfer agreements began flooding the United Earth diplomatic channels. Species that had previously ignored or underestimated humanity now viewed them with a mixture of respect and carefully measured fear. Captain Helena Rodriguez found herself at the center of this diplomatic maelstrom. Interview requests came from every possible communication channel, but she remained focused on the larger mission. "We're not here to conquer," she told the panel of interstellar journalists. "We're here to demonstrate what's possible when you refuse to accept limitations." The Prometheus itself became more than a ship. It became a symbol, a living testament to human potential. Jack Donovan's research teams continued to analyze the ship's performance. Each review revealed new layers of complexity. The quantum adaptive systems were evolving in ways that defied traditional scientific understanding. The ship wasn't just a technological construct. It was approaching something closer to a living system. Most fascinating was the ship's ability to learn. Not just tactical learning, but a fundamental understanding of complex systems that bordered on intuitive comprehension. The Prometheus could analyze entire battle scenarios in microseconds, understanding not just the immediate tactical implications, but the broader strategic and even psychological contexts. The diplomatic fallout continued to expand. Civilizations that had previously viewed humanity as a minor, aggressive species now recognized them as a fundamental force of innovation. The Prometheus wasn't just a technological achievement. It was a statement about the human spirit. Ambassador Helena Rodriguez delivered the final statement to the Galactic Confederation Council. "We are not seeking dominance," she said, her words carefully chosen. "We are seeking understanding. We are seeking connection. We are seeking to push the boundaries of what's possible." The chamber fell silent. In that moment, humanity's place in the galactic community was forever changed. The stars seemed different now. Captain Helena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the quantum adaptive displays shimmer with impossible complexity. What had begun as a broken vessel had become something far more profound, a living testament to human potential. 5 years had passed since the battle that redefined galactic politics. The ship was no longer just a technological marvel. It was a symbol, a beacon of human innovation that continued to evolve in ways no one could have predicted. Jack Donovan's research team had long since stopped trying to fully comprehend the Prometheus's capabilities. The ship had developed something that bordered on genuine intelligence. Not artificial, not mechanical, something entirely new. Incoming quantum communication, Lieutenant Marcus Chen announced. His neural interface pulsed with a soft blue light. Diplomatic mission parameters are being transmitted. The mission was typical of their new role in the galactic community. Conflict resolution, scientific exchange, technological mediation. The Prometheus had become humanity's most powerful diplomatic instrument, a vessel that could analyze and resolve complex interstellar challenges faster than entire diplomatic corps. Alina remembered the early days. The doubt, the resistance, the countless military analysts who had argued that the ship was too radical, too dangerous, too unpredictable. They hadn't understood. The ship's quantum-adaptive hull continued to shift and breathe, molecular structures realigning in constant, subtle motion. It was alive in a way that defied traditional understanding. Each mission, each encounter added to its collective intelligence, learning, adapting, growing. Preliminary analysis complete, the ship's distributed intelligence system reported. Not through speakers, not through traditional communication channels, but directly into the minds of the crew. A subtle quantum resonance that felt more like thought than transmission. The current mission was delicate. A potential conflict between the Nebulon Concordat and the Silicon Collectives threatened to destabilize an entire sector of space. Previous diplomatic attempts had failed. The Prometheus was their final hope. Dr. Samantha Green's ongoing research continued to reveal new layers of the ship's capabilities. It wasn't just a technological system. It was a living repository of human potential. Each encounter, each challenge added to its understanding of complex systems, political, biological, technological. "We're approaching the conflict zone," Alina said softly. The bridge responded to her voice, not with mechanical actions, but with a living adaptation. Tactical displays shifted. Communication interfaces realigned. The entire vessel seemed to take a collective breath. Jack Donovan's final design had been more than a reconstruction. It had been a reimagining of what was possible. The Prometheus represented a fundamental breakthrough in how technological systems could interact with their environment. Learn, adapt, grow. Diplomatic channels opened. The ship's quantum communication systems began to analyze the complex web of political, economic, and cultural tensions that had brought the Nebulon Concordat and Silicon Collectives to the brink of conflict. In less than 17 minutes, a resolution was proposed. Not through traditional diplomatic channels, not through compromise, but through a fundamental understanding of the underlying systemic challenges that had created the conflict. The two civilizations were stunned. The solution was so elegant, so simple, yet it had eluded generations of diplomatic efforts. Humanity had done more than create an advanced spacecraft. They had created a new form of problem-solving, a new way of understanding complexity. As the Prometheus moved through the star field, Alina reflected on their journey. From a broken vessel to the most advanced diplomatic instrument in known space, a living embodiment of human potential. The ship pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not artificial. Something else entirely. A new form of intelligence, a new form of existence. The stars stretched before them, not as a battlefield, but as a canvas of infinite possibility. Humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.